how to coach them through pause at the top, focus on that.
Right.
You said the turnover. I imagine that would be important for sprinters. No? The transition between...
Okay. It's probably important for all athletes at the proper time. So just think of it as two ways to train. One is to train to get maximum power, and the second is to train to use that maximum power with the fastest possible turnaround. Go the other way. Okay? So if you're going to do ba-boom like that, you're not going to be able to reach the maximum power that you're going up. So do it both ways.
Okay.
But you have to emphasize that they have to go at least till they hear the beep. When you hear that beep, boom, boom, go back down.
Yeah. Okay.
How would you use it for arm exercise? You want to train it. There's limitations on what you can do with this.
I mean, I don't really see us getting into that. I see us more with the leg, just to see
let's say you wanted to isolate somebody for flexion extension. You'd sit on the unit, bring the seat all the way down, you put your elbows at the point here where your knee was.
Oh, okay.
Just take these off, adjust the bar so it's in my hands, and boom, 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 boom. Okay?
Yeah. Okay.
How would I do it for back flexion extension? So,
this thing's really weak.
it sure is. It's going to rust the machine.
I know. That's what I'm thinking right now.
It's very simple. You take these off, come all the way back, and then like that.
Oh, I see.
Push it back. And you have to go slow enough so that I can at least contract my abs enough to make a full contraction. And then I would say, back! Arch your back and go back. Okay? It's a great exercise for flexion extension. Core strength.
Yeah.
Core strength.
Okay.
And you can do the same on that for a sit-up. I showed you that
Oh,
already.
cool. Yeah. Yeah. And this guy, too, we use this all the time, but I mean, this thing has so many different varieties.
Oh, yeah. But I tell people all the time, it's a huge toolbox, and it takes years of your own practice and knowledge to be able to use it to its max. But using it to its minimum will still be heads and shoulders above using other equipment because you're controlling everything.
Are there some standards when you're talking about getting athletes back on the field? So we do get a decent amount of, I like to say I think you're a physical therapist, but I think sometimes there's a gap between what most physical therapists do for athletes to actually them being ready to be on the field. Mm-hmm. And is there some standards or things that you use this for to like?
But just in general, from experience, because most people, trainers, physical therapists, don't have access to this beautiful equipment.
Yeah.
They only have what they have.
Yeah.
So when I test somebody on like a Cybex machine or a Kincon, where I'm measuring at an Iso-Kinetic speed, okay, that's great. Now I know what the difference is. However, nobody moves at a constant speed. We move at accelerated and decelerated speeds.
Yeah.
That's why we call it variable velocity instead of isokinetic.
Yeah.
Because we can change those speeds. So you want to get the parameters back to within the 90% range for the injured side versus the non-injured side. Then you want to train the entire body from the bottom to the top to utilize that additional strength fully.
So if I have a pretty bad hamstring and I can say, okay, you're putting out compared to your right to your left, like they're good enough to get on this machine and do some working out, and I'm like, wow, you're only about 20%.
Yeah.
We got to get this much stronger before you're ready to really get out on the field.
Exactly. Yeah, and being that the exerciser is the limiting factor in everything you do, it's a very safe machine.
Yeah.
Because there's really nothing that you can do to have a person hurt himself in this, because everything that's done is self-controlled by the exerciser.
Yeah.
You set the parameters, but even if you set the parameters wrong, they still have to do the output. So your body is not capable of over-exceeding and injuring itself doing something like this.
Yeah. What are some things, like when you guys have put different people through it, like what is like a common performance on the field indicator that we know the stuff's working? Like, would we see dramatic results in if I'm training for a volleyball player for vertical jump, I would most likely see do you guys, have you seen what 3, 4, 5, 6 inches on your verticals, or do you guys test them in any way? Like,
remember that Gideon was a coach on the women's volleyball team in 1984 that won the silver medal.
Yeah.
And during their work, he was able to get the average girl to increase the vertical jump by 6 inches, I think, in a matter of 5 to 6 months. He's better to talk to about those kind of things, okay? And I know that he would sit down with you, and you have a list of all your questions.
Yeah, I have a lot.
You go up to him, just sit down with him in his place. Don't make him come here.
Yeah, I'll definitely.
And then he'll start, giving you his insight into this. So ask the same questions you asked to me, to Gideon. What would be the optimum? What would I look for? In general, I would say that first you want to look at 3 factors. You want to look at balancing the body part, front to back and left to right, within the ranges I told you. Hamstrings to quads, 40 to 80%. By the way, the 80% would be more of endurance athletes. 40% would be more sprinters. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and a lot of us would be in the middle someplace. But if you have a sprinter and she's down to 20%, or he,
yeah,
you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And he predicted that on a couple of Olympic athletes that did indeed do hamstring tears during the actual event. So he's got a track record for that. So you want to look at balance and symmetry, okay? You want to look at you want to look at endurance to sustain the strength and the power, and you want to look at the power. Like I
so those are 3 great indicators for athletes.
Ready to go back. I would say if you can get a person back to do 20 repetitions in the 80 percentile bracket, it's probably pretty good.
Yeah.
So work with 80 yourself.
And obviously depending on
what I would do if I were you, I'd take your 4 trainers and I'd do the same test with them and see what the range is.
Yeah.
I used to work with the New Jersey State Police, the recruits coming in and leaving the academy, and we would do the testing on them, try to predict who's going to drop out because of injuries. And we also did strength testing on 30 instructors. So we had a bell curve. You're always going to get a bell curve of performance. Down the low end and down the high end, there'd be maybe 10%, 20%, and then most would be in the middle range. But that's not training for an athletic event.
Yeah.
I can't tell you whether anybody's actually done the testing of what you're asking me. So you kind of have to go by instinct, and you'll become your own expert in it, so long as you stay within reasonable expectations.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm also thinking through, like, the marketing of it's a completely different, question in the sense of, like, the business side of it. But at the same time, when I'm talking to someone and giving them a pitch about what type of equipment we have, part of me, you're saying that no one else has this.
No, I didn't say no one else has it.
But, like, I mean, okay, that there's not many places.
There's thousands in the world, but not, there probably isn't more than 20 in California. I don't know what they are. So you're in a very unique position. I've got a guy that does baseball. His name is Darius Toussaint. He's in the Hollywood area. He's got machines that have been used for many, many years for baseball players. So, it's a general thing. I don't know.
Would you say, okay, these things are great for obviously diagnostics, so we can tell,
what do you
where
mean by diagnostics?
where we're strong.
We're not diagnosing pathology.
Evaluating.
We call it diagnostics, but we have the equipment to do specific evaluation to see if you are balanced, what your basic strength level is, what your basic power level is, and we can use this knowledge to help see if you're ready for this particular sport or that particular sport.
Yeah.
And then we can help you train specifically for that sport.
Yeah, when you can see can you kind of also see genetically, if you're more of an endurance person, or more of a peak
Absolutely.
peak power person, and then it can kind of help direct and guide our training.
Absolutely. How do you do that? Well, you make up a little program, and you start with 100. Let's just say you use the 4 things that we went to: 100, 200, 300, and 400. All right. Now, most people probably will be able to sustain the same power from 100 to 200. Better, I'm just guessing, man. You have to play with it. Better people, better athletic people would probably be able to sustain it all the way up to 300. The elite athletes maybe could sustain it to 400, right? So the more you can maintain your strength at the higher speeds, the better genetic athlete you'll be.
Yeah. So it's just really messing around with it and figuring out some standards and parameters.
Iron Curtain countries, you know, Russia, Soviet Union, Czechoslovakia, Poland. They used to do this crazy thing where they would biopsy the muscles of these young kids, you know, and they put them under a microscope. And they'd say, okay, 20% fast twitch, you know, so many slow twitch. After seeing this equipment, they stopped doing it. They actually started getting into machine too in the 80s and started using these techniques to do the same thing.